morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates. I am Adanna Combie, and we continue conversations this morning in studio with our guest. We are speaking with Garth Jacob. He is Divisional Fire Officer in the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services, and also Roxanna Lewis, Acting Assistant Divisional Fire Officer in the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services. Of course, we know we're in the month of October and we're preparing for Tobago Carnival, so we're talking about readiness for Tobago Carnival, and we also want to talk a little bit about Fire Prevention Week as well. So good morning and welcome to the program. Welcome to our show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for having us.
Right. So we want to get straight into the conversation. We know we're preparing for Carnival. We know we have a lot of things that we have to have ready for the road and for all the activities that would lead up to Carnival. So tell us, what is our status, where we are now, what we need to do, and how are things looking?
Well, basically, Adanna, the fire service has partnered with other agencies, the police, TEMA, health, and we are preparing for our signature event, which is the Tobago Carnival. I think it's the second time around.
Yes.
And we want to ensure that it's a safe experience for all our revelers and patrons and visitors. And the fire service, just as the others, we are going to pay particular attention to safety, especially where it involves public safety.
Right? I know we had, as you said, you collaborated with all the other agencies, because we spoke with TEMA earlier in the week, and of course they mentioned your partnership. I'm particularly concerned about like crowd control, because I know that's one of your main focus as fire departments, fire service officers.
Yes.
Because I know, like, if you participate in events and stuff like that, your focus is on ensuring crowd control, for crowd safety, for participants safety, to ensure they are safe. There's no stampede. There's access to exit and enter as freely. So tell us a little bit about how that is being managed this year.
Yes, well, for particular events, especially events in enclosure, we would have the responsibility to inspect or do a risk assessment of these venues, determine what the capacity is. And I know it's always the dream of every promoter to fill his or her fare.
That's right.
And, but in an effort to keep that as safe as possible as we can, we have to visit the venue to ensure that there's proper access and egress from. The place is well lit, the signage is up. In terms of how they lay out the venue, in terms of where they put the food courts and where they have open flames, where they be used, and it's a phenomenon now. You can't have a fete without fireworks.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And where they set up all these things in relation to where the patrons are. You know, in the past, we would have had a few incidents and some major at that. And we intend to ensure that those things don't occur in Tobago.
Yes, and I think that people don't really, well, the average general public, they don't really understand the importance of the role that you will play in terms of managing that aspect of an event, because it takes a lot. You talk about the layout of the food court, you talk about entrance and exit, you talk about all these different things that go into planning an event and ensuring that the place is properly laid out to ensure safety for the patrons, because this is your role and responsibility, and I believe you take it seriously, right? In terms of for the road, what the road looking like?
Well, I would leave that to Officer Lewis, because she was the one in the inspections.
Right.
Road,
So, in addition to what Officer Jacob said, we offer this package. Normally, when the promoters come to us, we offer them this package.
Right.
Right. So inside this package, we have all the guidelines for the trucks, the guidelines for the water trucks, the guidelines for vendors, for everybody on the road this year.
Okay, so they have to follow these guidelines to ensure safety and smooth flow.
Yes.
And is it that they have to go through a process? Is there, like, and how do they access the forms? Is it that they apply for it? How does that process
Okay,
work?
so we would have left some forms at the Festivals Commission.
Right, okay.
And also when the private promoters come to the fire service, we would give them this package.
Okay, and they ensure they
when
meet all the
apply for their
requirements.
license, yes.
Right, right. Awesome, awesome. And we want to talk a little bit about Fire Prevention Week.
Right.
How is that? What is this? This is Fire Prevention
Right,
Week,
so
right?
Fire Safety Week is normally held around the 9th of October every year. It's annual, it's a worldwide thing. The theme for this year is Cooking Safety Starts With You. Yes. So the week started from the 8th of October to the 14th of October. We started with a church service. And seeing that we're dealing with cooking, we actually made visits to restaurants in the western side of the island, Kong Point in the night. We also did visits around Scarborough. We visited the restaurants and the fast food areas and so forth. When we talk about cooking safety, we're looking at two categories. We're looking at domestic and residential, as well as commercial. So domestic is in your home, and then you have the little pointers for your home. Do not wear these long sleeve clothes. Make sure that your 20-pound cylinders is in a well ventilated area. In the cupboard, if you could put some holes or open the door so that you won't have the buildup of the gas there. When you talk about commercial, we deal with restaurants, hotels, fast food outlets. So we know that some of the outlets, once you're storing more than 500 pounds of LPG cylinders, in accordance with the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, you must have a sprinkler system for the LPG cylinders.
Right. And this was, sorry, go ahead.
And the lines must be painted yellow from the cylinders to your stove inside the restaurant.
And what is the purpose for painting it yellow?
Right, so that when in case there's an emergency and there's fire breakout and fire service has to come and burst any line or break any line, we would know that we would not interfere with that line because it's yellow, it's painted yellow. Yes.
Okay. And this process took place, you all did this over this week and last week?
Well, this week.
This week primarily?
We went and checked, yes.
Okay. And I suppose in terms of for on the road, the same carnival events is the same kind of...
So we're looking at the vendors. So the other aspect of the commercial with cooking starts with you, we're looking at the vendors. Right. So vendors have a variety of guidelines that we do. We normally team up with health and we give them the guidelines. So the vendors know, and we're stressing it all the time, that they must have their 4.5 kg dry chemical powder extinguisher once you're cooking open flames. Right. Vendors also supposed to know that they're cooking at the rear of the tent, and in the front is where you're doing all the serving.
Okay, and when you go on the road, like when the vendors they've applied, they've been accepted, and they set up, is it that you go and do an assessment before the event begins on the road?
Yes, we will do a drive-through of the entire circuit that you do for Carnival, and we'll be checking the vendors to make sure that they comply.
Okay.
Once they're doing open flame cooking.
Yeah, because I mean, it's very important. When we're talking about fire, a fire is something that can catch quite easily. And in as much as we're in the rainy season, it's been a very dry, rainy season.
Yes,
so, of course, we really have to pay attention to this type of activities and the way how we produce things and the way how we set up and we ensure we follow all the guidelines to a T to ensure safety for everybody on the nation's roads, in your homes, as you talk about your domestic cooking, your commercial cooking, and all these types of things. For somebody who is for the first time hearing about all of this, like somebody who is a vendor or interested in participating in an event and they want to set up their little tent somewhere, what is the process or the procedure? How do they get certified or accepted or approved to do something like this?
Well, I know health will deal with that aspect of it because they have to go to health in order to get their food badge.
So the first step is go to health, get your food badge.
Right? And then when health has their lecture, because health would normally have a lecture, the fire service would also be part of that lecture process. They meet with all the vendors. I think the lecture for Blue Food that is coming up on Sunday, that was on Monday.
Right.
So we had our officer present there to inform and educate all the vendors on the various guidelines they must adhere to in order to make sure that everything is safe.
Right, and then when they set up camp, they have a visit again to ensure everything. Because I mean, you could sit in a classroom or you could sit in a lecture or workshop and you could absorb the information. But in terms of the practical aspect, you need to make sure that it's done the way it's supposed to be done for the purpose of safety and stuff like that, right? What are some of the things people need to pay attention to? Let's talk about the home, right? Fire prevention in the home. What are some of the things outside of the cooking gas? What are some of the things people need to pay attention to in their homes to ensure that there's safety, there's a low risk for fire breakouts in their homes?
Right. In terms of your homes, you can also, with your electrical supply, the electricity for your system, every 5 years, you're supposed to have that rewired. If you see it blinking, like by me, I see some blinking going on there, and I have to check that out, So that's one of the areas. Another area is things may occur. and the family needs to get out to evacuate from the building, we advise that persons have an evacuation plan for their home. 2 ways out. You have the front door, you have the side door or the back door, and then you have an assembly part, and then you can practice this with yourself and the children to ensure that people understand what they're supposed to do in the event of a fire. You also ask them to keep low to the ground on your way out and close any door behind you. So that would be to restrict the fire spread.
And this is a very important thing because I don't think a lot of people, especially in our culture, pay attention to the fact that we need to do fire drills in our homes because anything could happen and you need to be prepared. Sometimes when these things happen, you tend to panic.
Yes.
You tend to panic and you're trying to figure out what to do. Oh my gosh, where to go.
So if you were practicing all the time, although you would have that heightened sense of adrenaline, you would remember that you're supposed to stay low and you get out and you make sure and call the fire service 990. Yes?
Yes, awesome, awesome. I mean, I really appreciate this conversation, especially in our homes, because that's where families reside. That's the heart of your society. The home is the heart of your community, the heart of your society. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to pay attention to ensuring that we do these little things. You know, we have the things that we need in place in our homes and that we try to do a little fire drill. You know, even if it's once a month or once every other month with the children, especially so they know the route for escape. In closing, is there anything else that you want to share with our listening public as it relates to fire prevention and carnival?
Right, so I just want to make sure and emphasize to the vendors, we are looking at you this year especially. Make sure and have your 4.5 kg dry chemical powder extinguisher. Also, certificates for any elevated structure. We are looking to ensure that you all provide that for us.
Right, and Adanna, I just want to say to the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, come and enjoy us in Tobago for Carnival. It's going to be a safe, clean, green, serene experience, and I wish them all the best as we go forward in this.
Yes, of course, especially as you said, it's your second year, so you know all the things that you might have missed in the first first event. Of course, you made up for it right now in this one. So we want to thank you so much for coming this morning and for sharing all this information with us and for bringing us up to speed and ensuring that we are aware of the practices that we need to put in place in our homes for fire safety and the fact that we're going to be safe for Carnival 2023. We've been speaking with Garth Jacob and Roxanna Lewis from the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. We're talking about Carnival Readiness 2023, and we're also talking about fire prevention and fire safety in the home and in the commercial workspaces. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go for a short break before we continue our program this morning. And this is your invitation, of course, to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.